Welcome to the Ellis podcast.
Another day and time for another MLB preview. We are doing two teams today that, yesterday I was excited, or I shouldn't say yesterday, the last recording I did, I was excited. We did the Cubs and Mariners, two teams that are on the upswing and possible World Series contenders. Well, we have two teams today. At least one of them is definitely not going to be a World Series contender. The other, probably not. So we'll get into that in a second. First, though, I appreciate everybody really listening and following. And I look at the responses and everything I see from just a trend standpoint, people listening to the podcast, really appreciate it. Can't tell you how much it means to me. I do this not just to garner the reaction from everybody. I do it because I love it. I'm passionate about it, and I love talking sports, entertainment, pop culture. It's been more sports heavy, no doubt about it. We had the NFL ending of the season, which took precedence, and now getting into the baseball season. So there will be a lot more variety coming up soon, but I do want to get through all the baseball previews. If you do enjoy the podcast, I would ask you, please subscribe, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, any podcasting platform. By the way, I got an email that Apple's going to start doing more video podcasting, so that's exciting. But yeah, if you get a chance, please click subscribe. If you like the episode, give it a thumbs up. And then, follow me on social media if you could, on X and on Instagram. I'm at TellUsEllisHQ. And if you want to join the show, have ideas, want to banter with me, disagree with me, send me an email, jamie@tellusellis.com. So with that, today, two teams, the Chicago White Sox and the San Francisco Giants. Without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to start with a team that has really had a ton of struggles over the last 3 years. This is a team that back in 2021 won 93 games. They won their division, went to the AL Division Series, and lost 3-1 to the Astros. But it was a really good team. All that youth that they had invested in came together, led to 93 wins, and it looked like this White Sox team was on an absolute upswing. 2022 comes, and they only win 81 games. They dropped to second place, 11 games out, and it was a really disappointing season. But not as disappointing as 2023, when they won only 61 games. They were 61-101. Believe it or not, that was just fourth place that year. 26 games back, and a lot of disappointment that year. And that led to an absolutely horrible 2024. 2024, this is a White Sox team that won 41 games. They were 41-121. Just awful. Fifth place, obviously, 51 and a half games back. Basically, they were out of the pennant race in April that year. And then last year, they did improve by 19 games. I mean, I will give them credit for that. They still, even with improving 19 games, they finished 60 wins, 102 losses, fifth place in the division, 28 games back. Again, pretty brutal season. They had 3 5-game losing streaks last year, 3 6-game losing streaks last year, and then 2 8-game losing streaks last year. This is a team that, they won the World Series back in 2005. Since then, they've had 6 winning seasons since 2005. So really tough times on the South side, and they made some changes. Will Venable took over as a manager last year. It was his first year. Venable, former Major League outfielder. He coached in the Chicago Cubs and Boston Red Sox systems, and was an associate manager of the Rangers under Bruce Bochy when they actually won the 23 World Series. He's seen as a good culture builder, strong communicator. The front office and players really like him. He's very development focused. So, we'll see what Venable can do in his second season. General manager is Chris Getz. He's the executive vice president and general manager. He's a former Major League Baseball second baseman. Joined the White Sox in 2017 as their director of player development. He became assistant GM in 2021, general manager in 2023, And this is a guy that started in the Royals system in their front office in a player development capacity. You know, he's pretty vocal about a long-term rebuild, and that's what they're in the midst of right now. Stresses patience. You know, some fans are frustrated and they want him to win now. They feel like it's been too slow a progress. So the overall opinion of Getz as a GM is still kind of evolving. From an ownership standpoint, Jerry Reinsdorf has been the controlling owner since 1981. He's one of the longest tenured owners in Major League Baseball. In 2025, the White Sox announced a long-term investment agreement between Reinsdorf and billionaire Justin Ishbia that could shift controlling interest from Reinsdorf to Ishbia between 2029 and 2033, with Ishbia taking full ownership in 2034. That would be huge. I mean, I think White Sox fans, to them, that would be a really big deal. You know, the on-field struggles, the culture of inaction, fan discontent, there's just ownership fatigue. There are calls for a change. So maybe this is the change that the White Sox want and are looking for. Unfortunately, they're going to have to wait a couple years for that transition to fully occur. So tough times on the south side. Guaranteed Rate Park is where they call home. It's actually Guaranteed Rate Field, I believe. Just from an attendance standpoint, you know, in 2021, coming off of COVID, there was some restrictions on attendance. They drew 1.6 million fans in 21. That was the year they won 93 games. So you would think going into 2022, they probably would sell a bunch of tickets, and they did go over the 2 million threshold in attendance in 2022, but it was short-lived. By 2023, they were down to 1.7 million fans. 2024 was pretty abysmal. I mean, they won 41 games that year. They only drew 1.38 million fans. This is in a big market, Chicago. Granted, it's not the north side where fans might feel more comfortable hanging out outside the stadium and so forth. It is the south side of Chicago, but still 1.38 million fans. Very disappointing. Last year, they drew 1.45 million fans. Guaranteed Rate Park, Guaranteed Rate Field, not known as a, you know, this beautiful stadium. I remember when it opened, I think it was back in 1990. It was either 90 or 91. Again, not an exciting, you know, stadium, place to play. If you look at the stadium, in April and May, it plays fairly neutral. June, it's down 2% overall in hitting. July, it absolutely spikes up. It's up 12% in July. And a lot of that has to do with the wind factors and, of course, the heat in Chicago in July. August and September, it goes back down to -5 and -6% against average, respectively. So you've got some summer hitting, and outside of that, pretty even. And then August and September, it dips back down. So what has this team done in the offseason? Have they improved? Well, they did move on from Luis Robert. I still don't know how to say that guy's name. He was traded to the Mets in a deal. He was a former MVP candidate, but last year batted .234, 14 home runs, 53 RBIs. He did steal 33 bases at 1 OPS. You know, he was a guy that was supposed to be the future, and the White Sox move on from him. They did get some young talent in that deal, so good for them as far as getting that talent. Onward for Luis Robert, however you say it. Martin Perez moved on to the Braves. He's a starting pitcher, 1-6 with a 3.54 ERA last year. I like Perez. I like what he could do for the Braves this year. He pitched to a 1.11 whip with the White Sox last year. And again, he moves on. Tyler Alexander's a relief pitcher who he signed with the Rangers. He was 5-14 with a 4.98 ERA. Did get to start 5 games, but mostly came out of the pen, 97 2/3 innings. He pitched for Milwaukee and Chicago last year. Michael Taylor, longstanding outfielder in Major League Baseball, retired. He had batted just .200 last year, 9 home runs, 35 RBIs. Miguel Castro, signed with the Angels. He's a relief pitcher. He only appeared in 6 games last year. And then Mike Tauchman signed with the Mets. Tauchman, an outfielder, 263, 9 home runs, 40 RBIs, a 756 OPS. So that is what they lost. I do like what they added, though, and I want to get into this. I'll start with Sir Anthony Dominguez, a really good bullpen arm that they signed. Dominguez, a 3.16 ERA, 4-4, pitched in 67 games with Baltimore and Toronto last year. Again, a 3.16 ERA, 62 2/3 innings. He strikes out 79 batters, does pitch to a 1.28 whip, but overall, love that signing for them out of the bullpen. Jordan Hicks, in a trade with the Red Sox, comes over. He was only 2-7 last year with a 6.95 ERA. 34 games, he started 9 of them, 2 saves, 67 1/3 innings, struck out 58 batters, a 1.66 whip. Look, this is not a high risk move for the White Sox. Hicks has had a history of pitching pretty well, so see if he can revitalize his career in Chicago. They signed Austin Hayes, an outfielder, played for Cincinnati last year. Had a pretty nice year, 266, 15 homers, 64 RBIs, 7 stolen bases, a 768 OPS. Has my Oriole ties, so I like the signing of Austin Hayes. Part of the Luis Robert deal, with the Mets, was bringing over Luis Angel Acuna, a second baseman, 234 hitter, no home runs, 8 RBIs, 16 stolen bases for the Mets last year. He'll come over and play second base. I really like this signing. Sean Newcomb, starting pitcher, relief pitcher, kind of a swing guy, 2-5 with a 2.73 ERA last year. In 48 games, he started 5 of them. 92 1/3 innings, he struck out 91 batters and pitched to a 1.35 whip. And then they also signed Jared Kelenic, a very disappointing high prospect a couple years ago. Signed to a minor league deal this year, only batted 167, 2 home runs, 2 RBIs. Again, kind of disappointing, but Kelenic will have a chance to rebuild himself with the White Sox. And then they signed Eric Feedy, starting pitcher, relief pitcher. He had pitched for them before, 4-13 with a 5.49 ERA, 32 games, 24 games started last year, 141 innings, just 83 strikeouts, and a 1.52 whip. Again, a chance to rebuild his career. But their 2 big signings were international guys. One, I love these. It's Munetaka Murakami, an infielder, third baseman, batted 286, 24 home runs, and 52 RBIs in Japan last year, a 1.051 OPS. Look, this is a guy that averaged 28 plus home runs per season between 2019 and 2024. I love him coming over. Again, yeah, they pay him a lot of money, but again, what's the risk here? You won 61 games last year. So why not, or 60 games last year? Why not give this guy a chance? If he does well, he helps you. Maybe he's a trade asset down the road, or maybe he's part of the future of this team. The other player that they signed was Anthony Kay, another pitcher that pitched overseas, threw to a 1.74 ERA and pitched in 155 innings last year. Again, another low-risk move. Anthony Kay, starting pitcher, and will absolutely have a chance to prove himself for this team in 2026. So really like these moves by the White Sox. I actually had them as one of the most improved teams in that division for the year. So now let's get into their overall hitting, starting pitching, and bullpen. And by the way, before I get into this, look, I do give the White Sox credit for their moves. It's not like I think that this is going to be a division-winning team. It's not even going to win. It's not going to play 500 ball this year. I'm just being honest. It is a team that's improving, and we'll get into this a little bit. But, last year, why did they win just the 60 games that they did? They were 27th in the league in average and 28th in OPS. So that's one reason. Their starting pitching was 21st in ERA and 26th in WHIP. So that's reason number 2. Their relief pitching was 18th in ERA and 23rd in WHIP. Not terrible, but when you have no hitting, no starting pitching. What good is the bullpen going to do? I would argue. So again, I'm just being honest here. Let's go over their offense, and I'll start at second base. And this is who I project to start for them for the most part. Chase Midroth is a right-handed hitter, 24 years old. He was a fourth-round pick out of Boston. He was traded to the White Sox in December of 24. Last year, 505 plate appearances. He batted .253, 5 home runs, 14 stolen bases. Gets on base at a .329 clip, only a .320 slugging percentage, but he will likely start and play second base every day. Kyle Teal, 24-year-old, was the 14th overall pick of Boston back in 2023. He also came over in that deal with Boston in December of 24. He had 297 plate appearances last year, batted .273, 8 home runs, 3 stolen bases. He gets on base at a .375 clip, .411 slugging percentage. Teal is a catcher. He'll play behind the plate. He's a left-handed bat, and I think the future's bright for a guy like this. Colson Montgomery, shortstop, was the 22nd pick overall of the White Sox back in 2021. And he had 284 plate appearances last year, batted .239, but he did hit 21 home runs, .311 on base percentage, but a .529 slugging percentage. So, that's a .830 OPS. So excited about Colson Montgomery, see what he can do in his sophomore season. Again, shortstop, and again, something to build upon. I mentioned Munetaka Murakami coming over, and I said he would play third base. He'll primarily play first base. He's still only 26 years old, and I gave you his statistics. He has some power. Again, how much will this translate to Major League Baseball? But left-handed bat, and I think it's a really good ad for this team. We'll see what he can do from a power standpoint for the White Sox. Miguel Vargas, who came over in a trade with the Dodgers, 26 years old still. Vargas, .234 with 16 home runs last year, 6 stolen bases. I think there's still some upside for Vargas, still only 26 years old. He was a prospect for the Dodgers, and he'll play third base. And again, not a bad bat in this White Sox lineup. Andrew Benintendi will play left field for this team. Benintendi, the 7th overall pick from Boston back in 2015. He's a little more well-traveled now. Boston, the Yankees, the Royals. Benintendi, .240 last year, did hit 20 home runs, not getting on base that much, .307, but, a decent outfielder, probably a holding spot for somebody in the future, one of their prospects at some point. Austin Hayes will play right field, likely. Again, .266, 15 home runs, 7 stolen bases last year, .453 OPS. Brooks Baldwin will likely play center field for this team. Baldwin was a 12th round pick of the White Sox back in 2022, but he did get 328 plate appearances last year, batted .240 with 11 home runs, .407 slugging percentage. 25 years old, so he'll get a chance to play most days. And then likely at DH, it will be Edgar Quero. Quero was traded to the White Sox in July of 23, had 403 plate appearances last year, batted .268 with 5 home runs. So that is likely who will fill out the outfield, infield, catching slots, DH. On the bench, they'll likely have Corey Lee as their backup catcher. I also think they will have Luis Angel Acuna, who came over from the Mets as kind of a utility infield, outfield guy. .234, very little power, does have speed on the bases, 16 stolen bases last year. Lenyn Sosa will likely be another utility guy, an infielder. Had 255 plate appearances last year and batted .264 with 22 home runs. Again, can play a lot of the infield positions. He's a right-handed hitter, so he'll probably get a chance to platoon somewhere on the field and get a good handful of at-bats this year. And then Everson Pereira is an outfielder, limited action last year, but he will likely also have a chance to be a bench slot for this team. So let's move on to their starting rotation then. And it starts with Shane Smith. Shane Smith had a really nice year last year. 29 starts, 146 and a third innings. He gave up only 117 hits and struck out 145 batters. Pitched to a 3.81 ERA. Still, opening day, he'll be 26 years old. Shane Smith slots in again at the top of that rotation, and that is not a bad number one starter for a team that won 60 games last year. So, again, I like Shane Smith, and I think that as long as he stays healthy, they can count on him for a lot of innings, and that's somebody to build upon. Davis Martin started 25 games last year. He was a 14th round selection of the White Sox back in 2018. 142 and 2/3 innings, 136 hits. Doesn't strike out a lot of guys. Only struck out 104 batters. 4.10 ERA. He will likely slot somewhere in that 2 or 3 spot in the rotation this year. Sean Burke was a third round draft pick, 94 overall of the White Sox back in 2021. Started 22 games last year, 134 and a third innings, 131 hits, 133 strikeouts. Again, he'll get a chance to throw the ball every 5th day. And if you look at those first 3 arms in the rotation, 2 of them were drafted by the White Sox. Smith was a Rule 5 selection. I don't mind those top 3 in the lineup or in the rotation. It's not, again, does it exude number one top of the rotation starter quality? No, but is it a bad rotation, those first 3 for a 60-win team? Not at all. And then you have Anthony Kay, who is going to come in again, see what he can do. Kay coming over from Asia, and I'm excited to see this guy pitch. He had really dynamic numbers, saw his fastball velocity really increase when he was overseas. So excited to see what Kay can do. And then Eric Fiddy will probably start that number 5 spot and coming back to Chicago, see what he can do. Not a great year last year for Milwaukee, 5.49 ERA in 141 innings. That is the starting rotation. So let's turn to the bullpen now. You've got, as your closer coming in, Sir Anthony Dominguez, 3.16 ERA, 62 and 2/3 innings, just 44 hits and 79 strikeouts. So he could be a lockdown guy. Although I don't know if he's ever really pitched in a true closer role or has had success there. So we'll have to see what he can do, but he will get the closing opportunity for the White Sox. From a setup standpoint, Jordan Leisure will be one of the setup guys. 64 and a third innings last year, 49 hits and 81 strikeouts, pitched to a 3.92 ERA. I really like that as one of your setup guys. Grant Taylor is likely to be the other setup guy. 4.91 ERA last year, 36 and 2/3 innings, 37 hits, did strike out 54 batters. So, some upside there in your setup guys. I really like, from a middle relief standpoint, Sean Newcomb. Again, he can be a swing guy. He can start for you as well. Newcomb, a 2.73 ERA last year, 92 and a third innings, 94 hits, 91 strikeouts. He was a free agent. They signed him, and he pitched for the Athletics last year. He was a guy I wish the Athletics didn't let go. But I think Newcomb can play a key role for this White Sox team this year. Mike Vasil will likely be in middle relief as well. Vasil pitched really well last year. 2.50 ERA, 101 innings, just 74 hits and 82 strikeouts. So I like him in the bullpen. Brandon Eisert will also be a lefty out of that bullpen. Now, Eisert pitched to a 4.39 ERA last year, 69 and 2/3 innings, 75 hits and 74 strikeouts. Jordan Hicks was signed. He will likely be a middle reliever, an arm out of that bullpen. I told you last year his numbers were not good, but this is a chance for Hicks to kind of reinvent himself. 6.95 ERA last year. And then Jetixon Paez may get a chance to be in long relief for this team. He was a Rule 5 pick for Boston. if they want to keep him, he's going to have to be on the roster, so I could see him filling a long relief role for that team. Drew Thorpe is a pitcher, 25 years old, was a second-round pick of the Yankees back in 2022. Thorpe, unfortunately, had the dreaded Tommy John surgery back in March of last year. He's recovering. He will likely get a chance to pitch for this team at some point in 2026. A lot of upside there with him. They'll be cautious with him, but when he's ready to pitch, he will come back and likely get a chance to either start or fill a long relief role for this team. It's a shame because if Thorpe was healthy and you put him in there with Smith, Martin, and Burke, those are 4 really good starters. So again, see what he can do when he comes back from injury. So now let's talk about their farm system. This is an area that the White Sox have to develop, and they've not had the best farm system for a while. You go back to 2021, they ranked 20th in the league. 2022, dead last, 30th in the league. 2023, they were 28th. And then you started seeing improvement. 2024, they were 18th. 2025, they were 4th. They graduated some players, so right now they rank 18th, all of this according to Baseball America. They've made strides in player development. We'll talk about some of the players, including Hagen Smith and Caleb Bonham. These are top prospects that are going to serve as building blocks for this team. So, let's get into it a little bit. Their number 1 overall prospect, 26th in Major League Baseball, is Noah Schultz. He's a left-handed pitcher, 6'9", 220 pounds. This guy's a left-hander. He was drafted by the White Sox as a prep arm, 26th overall in 2022. He dropped to the late first round because he had mono his senior year. And again, very long and lanky, 6'9", 6'10", 10 starts in 2023. He had a flexor strain that limited him in 2023, but then made 23 starts in 2024, but they really used caution with him. He only averaged about 4 innings per start. His fastball velocity, as a result of kind of taking it slower that year, surged, and his fastball became kind of a double plus pitch. 2025 was a little bit more of a challenging year for Schultz. His velocity on both his four-seam fastball and slider dropped, and his walk rate went from 6.7%, nearly doubled, to 13.8%. Now, he did have some right knee issues that he attributed to those, that dip in velocity and that increase in walks. So his season ended early in late August, and he did go to the Arizona Fall League, but unfortunately was pulled from that. His sinker, he's got a really plus sinker, but it's more effective when his velocity went up in 2024. That sinker really developed. He's got a lot of deception, as you can imagine, that 6'9", 6'10" frame. He's got a low 3/4 arm slot. He hides the ball really well. Mentioned the slider, it's double plus, but again, velocity was down, and when his velocity is down, that makes all his pitches kind of take a step back. He's got a changeup that sits 86 to 89 miles an hour, could be an above average pitch. He's got a cutter that averages 88 to 91 miles an hour. He's got to work on his mechanics. He's got to be careful with that. Again, I talked about his knee injury, but just when you're that tall, your delivery is important, and it can throw things off and cause injuries in weird places like his knee. Poor control and command were some of his biggest issues last year, along with injuries. So they're gonna take a little bit more time to develop him. Like I said, he's 22 years old. You would think that a 22-year-old with his pedigree might get more time in Chicago this year, but I'm not sure he's going to be there in 2026. Let's see if he can get healthy, and let's see what he does. From a grading standpoint, his slider grades out at a 70, his fastball is 65. A lot of upside here. Let's just hope he stays healthy in 2026. So I've already mentioned Caleb Bonham. He's the White Sox number 2 prospect, number 27 overall in baseball. He's 20 years old. He's a shortstop, 6'1", 195 pounds. The White Sox drafted him in the second round in 2024. Pitched in low A ball out of the gates and batted .281 with a .400 on-base percentage, a .458 slugging percentage. Hit 10 home runs, stole 27 bases, ended up being Carolina Player of the Year before he ended the year in High A Winston-Salem. So all of that was in 2025, by the way. So, you know, look, he's improving his rhythm at the plate, could get to plus power at his peak. Questions remain as to his ultimate position. Is he going to be a shortstop? I would say probably not, and we'll talk about why in a little bit. But he can probably be an average defender at third base. Some say he could actually just be an everyday outfielder, so we'll see. This is a guy who has the potential to be an above average regular. He'll likely return to high A ball in 2026. Work through the minor leagues, probably end the year somewhere, double A, probably even triple A. He's a guy that has the potential, again, plus power, grades out as a 60 power, 55 hit tools. So again, 20 years old, more time for development. Their number 3 prospect, number 73 overall in baseball, is Braden Montgomery. He's an outfielder, 22 years old, 6'2", 201 pounds. He spent 2 years at Stanford as a two-way player and transferred to Texas A&M for his junior year in 2024. He fractured his right ankle in the Super Regional game in the College World Series against Oregon. The Red Sox drafted him 12th overall, but never played for a Boston affiliate. He was acquired by the White Sox when they traded Garrett Crochet to the Red Sox in 24. Montgomery played 3 levels in 2025, but again, suffered a right foot injury, a fracture in early September, and he ended up ending his season, but he did play in the Arizona Fall League. Look, he's got quick hands. He kind of explodes on the baseball. He's an average hitter, but does have plus power and solid average plate discipline. He's probably going to be a center fielder, but he's got a plus arm that might play better in right field. He will likely make his debut in 2026. Again, 60 grade power. Power is more of his hit tool than average. Overall hit tool is probably a 40 grade, but he does have a 70 arm. So again, on a team where you are experiencing some challenges, Montgomery has all of the opportunity to play on this team in 2026. I'm not saying he will break camp with them, but he will likely get a look at sometime in 26. I want to talk about 2 more prospects that sit outside the top 100, but their 4th prospect is Hagen Smith, a left-handed pitcher, 22 years old. The White Sox drafted him 5th overall, in 2024. He was the SEC Pitcher of the Year at Arkansas. Jumped to Double-A Birmingham in his first full season in 2025. He missed parts of May and June due to elbow soreness. You hate that. You hate hearing about injuries to pitchers. He finished 2025 with 20 starts, a 3.57 ERA, and a 33.9% strikeout rate, which was really good, but he did walk 17.6% of batters, which is really high. Assigned to Arizona Fall League, where he lowered that walk rate to just 10.5%. Really good to see. He's got a 4-seam fastball that's averages about 95 miles an hour. It's tough for hitters to handle when he locates it. But again, he did walk a lot of batters and had trouble locating it. He's got an 81 mile per hour slurvy slider. Could be a plus pitch for him. He's working on a split grip changeup that averages 86 miles an hour, reaches the low 90s with some sink. The big question is, can he develop more pitches? If not, he could be a pretty good bullpen arm, maybe even a dominant closer. But the White Sox would really like to see him start where he could be kind of a mid-rotation starter. A lot will depend on how he works on his control and if he can work on it. But again, 22 years old, we'll see if he can hit the White Sox 25-man roster sometime in 2026. The last person I want to talk about is Billy Carlson, and he is a shortstop. And I bring him up because we talked about Caleb Bonham and him being a shortstop, but might project better as a third baseman. And part of that is because of Billy Carlson. Carlson's just 19 years old. He's 6'1", 185 pounds. He was drafted 10th overall by the White Sox, signed for a full bonus slot of $6.236 million. And, look, he's a lean, athletic shortstop. He's one of the best defenders in the 2025 draft class. He already shows major league bat speed, needs to overhaul his swing a little bit, but he's 19 years old. There's plenty of time to do that. He's very, very good defensively, and that alone will get him to the big leagues. But, what's funny is he actually could have been drafted as a pitcher. He did pitch in high school, and his fastball hit 97 miles an hour and also had a really good high spin curveball. But because he's such a plus defender, he's going to play full time in the field. Needs to develop as a hitter. He's an average runner. He likely will be the shortstop of the future with Bonham moving over to third base. He's got, 70 field grade right now, 50 hit grade, 45 power. His arm is 70. So, when you look at this team between a guy like Billy Carlson and Bonham, and then you talk about Braden Montgomery in the outfield, there's some players to like here that will be in the White Sox 25-man roster in the next, it could be 2026 through the next 2 years. The question is this high-end talent, is this high enough to really make a difference for this White Sox team? Does it take them into playoff contention? We'll see about that. On the international market, they signed one top 50 player this January, and it was number 31 overall, Fernando Graterol. He is a catcher, the highest signed catcher, signed for $1.6 million. He's out of Venezuela, 17-year-old, 6'1", 185 pounds, right-handed batter. He, again, will add to building up that farm system. So the White Sox, as I said, not a team projected to make the playoffs, probably not even winning 81 games this year. So if they fall out of contention, do they have players they can trade? Unfortunately, it's not a huge list of names. I'll mention a couple of them. Austin Hayes, should he have a good year? He signed for $25 million in 26. There is a $8 million mutual option for 27. Could be a tradable asset. Sean Newcomb, again, you hear me rave about this guy. Could be bullpen, could be starter material. Only signed for $4.5 million this year, and he's a free agent in 27. Eric Fetty signed for $1.5 million in 26. He's a free agent in 27. Can he turn it on in the starting rotation? Andrew Benintendi, although he has signed for $17.1 million in 26, $15 million in 27, and he's not a free agent until 28. If he has a good year, he absolutely could be a trade asset. Again, well-traveled guy, but his ceiling is definitely limited, but I think there's a floor there that you should feel pretty good about. I'll mention Jordan Hicks trying to reinvent himself. He signed for $12.5 million in 26, $12.5 million in 27. He's a free agent in 28, but if he's dominant in that bullpen, again, a trade asset. And then I'll end with Sir Anthony Dominguez. Again, a lot of these guys that I mentioned as trade assets usually are on one-year deals. Dominguez is signed for $7.5 million this year, $10.5 million in 27, and then there's a $12 million mutual option in 28. But again, if they should fall out of contention early and they're looking and get good opportunities to trade away some of these guys, they'll do it. a lot of those guys I mentioned, they're not the future of this team. They are going to be long gone when this next iteration of winning in Chicago comes about. So overall, where do I have this team? It's hard not to have them in that bottom tier. I'm pretty solid on them being in the bottom tier. I think they're making strides, though. I think they're working ahead a little bit, and I'm not certain they'll be the worst team in baseball. Is that a compliment? If it is, I'll leave it with that. They will not be the worst team in baseball in 2026. So that is the Chicago White Sox. Let's now move on to the San Francisco Giants. The San Francisco Giants are a proud franchise. A lot of fans. Fans love the San Francisco Giants. They have had a history of winning over the last many, many years, and it's been a down time for them, and they want to get back to winning, bottom line. And they're in a tough division. When you have the Dodgers in your division, it's a tough division, and it's going to be hard to compete with the Dodgers. But believe it or not, and I couldn't believe this, do you know in 2021, the Giants won 107 games. They were 107-55, finished in first place, lost the National League Division Series to the Dodgers 3-2. But I couldn't believe that as recently as 2021, they won 107 games. Now, they dropped back significantly in 2022. They went 81-81, finished in third place, 30 games back. They've not been in the playoffs since 2021. I mentioned they played 500 ball in 22 and 23. They went 79-83, finished in fourth place, 21 games back. 2024, they went 80-82, finished in fourth place, 18 games back. And then last year, they played 500 again, 81-81, finished in third place, 12 games back. And look, this is a team that wants to get back to winning. The fans, they always come out. So 21, it was that COVID limited attendance, at least in the beginning of the year. They still drew 1.7 million fans. 2022, they drew 2.5 million fans. 2023, 2.5 million. 2024, 2.6 million. And then 2025, again, a team that played 500 baseball, they drew 2,926,000 fans. So again, their fans want them to win. It's a beautiful stadium, beautiful ballpark. You hope that they can get back to winning. New manager, Tony Vitello, was hired in October of 2025. And this is a new thing. So this is the first manager in MLB history that was hired directly from college baseball into Major League Baseball. And they have every reason to hire this guy. He had significant success at Tennessee. He won multiple SEC titles, won the 2024 College World Series. And look, it's a bold move and it's an unconventional move, but it's a new direction. And he's a proven leader. He's a proven culture builder. There might be some early growing pains, and that's going to happen, but he's a high energy guy. I think Giants fans should be optimistic but cautious early on, okay? Buster Posey is the president of baseball operations. He's got a plan, and that plan included hiring Tony Vitello. And I love it. I love taking a chance like this. I love having a guy like Buster Posey setting a direction and saying, this is going to be our guy to lead this next great iteration of San Francisco Giants baseball. Again, Buster Posey is the president of baseball operations. He sets the vision for this team. But Zach Minasian is their general manager. He was promoted in November of 2024. He had a scouting and player personnel role with the Brewers for 14 years. He joined the Giants in 2019 as a professional scout, a professional scouting executive, I should say. He was promoted to GM in 2024 under Buster Posey. Look, his strengths are scouting and talent evaluation. He's a key operational partner to Posey. Again, Posey's the visionary and Minasian's the executor. And it's good to see the stability now after some turnover in the front office. They've got their team now. They've got Posey, they've got Minasian, they've got Vitello. So from an ownership standpoint, it's led by an ownership group with the principal owner being Charles Johnson. His son, Greg Johnson, serves as the chairman of the board, and the MLB designated control person. He's been in place, has Charles Johnson since the early 90s. There's been stability there. They're seen from an ownership standpoint as steady, but a little bit risk averse. There's a huge commitment to the city and, Oracle Park, obviously, but some complain that the ownership group is too conservative on spending. And they also, they keep a pretty low public profile. So that's the leadership team of the San Francisco Giants. As I said, they play at Oracle Park, get really good attendance. I've never been there. I've got to go there. It does look like a beautiful stadium. How does it play? It's really interesting. In April, it's 4% below average offensively. And same thing in July, it's 1% below. August, it's 3% below. September, it's 5% below. But believe it or not, in May, it is up 10%, and in June, it's up 6%. Something about the heat and the winds in May and June propel the ball outward, and so that's just how it goes. So that's Oracle Park. Let's talk about some of the changes the Giants made in the offseason, and it wasn't a whole lot of changes. Wilmer Flores, first baseman, is still a free agent out there. He's been a really nice player for this team. 241, 16 home runs, 71 RBIs, 1 stolen base, a 686 OPS. It might have just been time to move on from him. Flores is one of those guys from a fantasy standpoint, is always showing up as a free agent near the top of the free agent list. Just not good enough to claim, doesn't get you the average, doesn't get you the home runs. Just he's steady. That's what I'll leave it at. Joey Lucchesi is still a free agent. He was a relief pitcher for the Giants last year, 0-1 with a 3.76 ERA. 38 games, 38 and a third innings, 31 strikeouts. He pitched to a 123 whip. I'm kind of surprised they didn't re-sign him. I think he's a good arm, but still out there. Tom Murphy is a free agent, very limited duty as a backup catcher. They did lose Justin Verlander to the Tigers. Verlander was 4-11 yet last year with a 3.85 ERA. He did start 29 games, which is more than I thought, pitched 152 innings. His strikeouts were down 137, and his whip was up at 1.36. So they lost him. They also lost backup catcher Andrew Kanizer to the Mariners. We talked about him on a previous podcast, 221, 1 home run, 5 RBIs, and a 598 OPS. So did the Giants do anything to help their team? And I would say yes, they did. I think they made a lot of improvements. Their biggest was probably the signing of Harrison Bader, who I think is a really good outfielder. Last year batted 277, 17 home runs, 54 RBIs, 11 stolen bases, OPS just under 800 at 796. I think that's a nice signing for this Giants team. Luis Ariz also was signed by this team, first baseman, second baseman. Look, Ariz, he gets you one statistic, and that's hitting. 292 average, 8 home runs, 61 RBIs, 11 stolen bases. He's not going to steal a ton of bases for you, not going to hit a lot of home runs, not going to drive in a lot of runs. But again, he can hit for average, so not a bad signing. I think these next 2 signings were really important. Tyler Mahle and Adrian Hauser, both starting pitchers. Mahle, before he had shoulder issues last year, was 6-4 with a 2.18 ERA. Didn't strike out a lot of guys. In 86 and 2/3 innings, struck out just 66 batters, but pitched to a 1.13 whip, and that was in 16 games started. So if he's healthy, I really like him in that starting rotation for the Giants. Same thing with Adrian Hauser, starting pitcher, 8-5 last year with a 3.31 ERA. Started 21 games, pitched 125 innings, struck out 92 batters, pitched to a 1.28 whip. So, a couple really good starting arms in there. Are they number 1 starters? No. Are they good mid-rotation arms? Yes. They also signed 2 guys coming back off of shoulder surgery, Sam Hentges and Jason Foley. Both of them could make this team, and again, no stats last year because they were out for the full season due to shoulder surgery. Low risk, potential high reward there. Will Brennan is also an outfielder they signed, just 11 at-bats last year, but they signed him as well in the offseason. So let's go through this team. And if you look last year, this offense was pretty poor, 25th in average, 22nd in OPS, pretty light hitting team. Starting pitching, they were 17th in ERA, 24th in WHIP, not great. Their strength was their bullpen, 4th in ERA, 7th in WHIP. So let's get into it a little bit. And let's start with the hitting. So going through the lineup, I mentioned Luis Ariz. He'll likely play second base most of the time. Again, 292 last year, 8 home runs. He gets a lot of hits, but his on-base percentage is only 327, meaning he doesn't take a lot of walks. Slugging percentage, again, really low, 392, but he can hit the baseball. You've got Rafael Devers at first base, 252 last year, but he hit 35 home runs, 372 on-base percentage, over 800 OPS. Rafael Devers, he's going to be there for a long time, and he is one of the big bats for this Giants team. Willy Adames played shortstop last year, just 225. He did hit 30 home runs, but only got on base at a 318 clip. You want to see Adames hit the ball better. You want to see him get on base more. If you're going to play shortstop, hit 30 home runs, you'd really like to see that average up a little bit. Matt Chapman, another low average guy, 231, did hit 21 home runs. Really good third baseman defensively, 9 stolen bases. His on-base percentage was 340 last year, but, another guy, you wish he would increase that average, but that is pretty much who Matt Chapman has been, kind of a low average, decent power guy, and that's Chapman, who will play third base for this team. Jung-Hoo Lee is likely to play right field. Lee, 266 with 8 home runs, 10 stolen bases last year. Pretty average hitter all around. Again, he'll play right field. Helio Ramos will likely play left field. 256 with 21 home runs last year, 6 stolen bases. Another guy that kind of just speaks average. So far, you can see this is a pretty average offense. Harrison Bader. Now, that's somebody that is going to play in center field. I'd like to see him hit up in the order, either lead off or bat second. It's not like he's got this incredible speed, but he does get on base at a 347 clip, which is better than a lot of these guys. And batted 277 last year, 17 home runs, 11 stolen bases. Again, I'd love to see Bader in that leadoff spot, maybe bat Ariz at number 2, put Devers at number 3, and then maybe Adames or Chapman 4 or 5. That's what I'd like to see. We'll see what they do. I'm going to talk more about Bryce Eldridge. He is their top prospect. He has a real good chance to break camp with this team. Had 37 plate appearances last year. Didn't do a whole lot. Again, 21 years old, very young. He was the 16th overall pick of this team back in 2023, but a lot of excitement with Eldridge. Again, we'll talk about him as a prospect in just a second. And then Patrick Bailey will probably be your everyday catcher, batted just 222 last year with 6 home runs. On the bench, Daniel Susac right now is slated to be your backup catcher. Gerard Encarnacion is a first baseman outfielder who could make this team as kind of a utility infield outfield guy. Only had 56 plate appearances last year. Casey Schmidt could be your utility infielder. Schmidt in 348 plate appearances, batted 237 with 12 home runs last year. And then Luis Matos is 24 years old. He will probably get a chance to start some, play the outfield. 184 plate appearances last year. He batted 221 with 8 home runs. Now that offense is not great. I'll admit it. It's not. Exciting to see Eldridge in there, hopefully, and then Harrison Bader in that lineup should help. But I don't think hitting is going to get them very far this year. Now, what about from a starting pitching standpoint? You've got Logan Webb, Mr. Reliable, 29 years old, 3.22 ERA last year, 207 innings. I was surprised to see he gave up 210 hits. That is a lot for him to give up. Only walked 46 batters and struck out 224. Again, pitched to a 3.22 ERA. Top of the rotation starter, and will be very good as a starting pitcher for the Giants this year. Robbie Ray, another year removed from Tommy John surgery. was pretty dominant last year, to be honest with you. 182 in the third innings, only gave up 148 hits, struck out 186 batters, pitched to a 3.65 ERA. So, those first two in that rotation, really, really solid. Now, Tyler Mahle comes in as your number 3 starter. Again, started off absolutely dynamite last year, 2.18 ERA, had some injuries, and was limited to 86 and 2/3 innings last year, but only gave up 69 hits, struck out 66 batters. If he could be in that number 3 slot, I feel pretty good about that. Adrian Hauser then comes over, could be in the full number 4 slot. Again, Hauser, 3.31 ERA last year, 125 innings, 122 hits. Doesn't strike out a lot of guys, just 92. But you feel pretty good about him in that number 4 slot. And then Landon Roop is probably going to be your 5th starter. 3.80 ERA last year, 22 games started, 106 and 2/3 innings, gave up 113 hits, struck out 102 batters. So I think a really strong 1 and 2, a really decent 3 and 4. I don't mind this Giants starting staff at all. And then you go to their bullpen, which again was pretty good last year. Ryan Walker is likely to be the closer, saved 17 games last year, 61 in the third innings, 60 hits, 60 strikeouts, pitched to a 4.11 ERA. Again, he'll close for you. Some really good setup guys. Eric Miller, 1.50 ERA. Now, he only pitched in 30 innings, 24 hits and 22 strikeouts. Joel Peguero is likely to be a setup guy as well. 22 in the third innings, 15 hits, 17 strikeouts, but pitched to a 2.42 ERA. Then from a middle relief standpoint, you have Jose Butto, who came over in a trade with the Mets. He was pitched to a 3.90 ERA last year, 67 innings, 62 hits, 58 strikeouts. Gregory Santos is a non-roster invitee this spring, but we'll get a look. Very limited action last year. Came over as a free agent from Seattle. He could be in middle relief. Matt Gage pitched to a 3.19 ERA last year, 31 innings, 35 hits, 27 strikeouts. He could be middle relief. And then Spencer Bivens could be middle relief. 81 innings, 83 hits, 61 strikeouts. He pitched to a 4 ERA. From a long relief standpoint, JT Brubaker could be your long relief guy, could start. 28 and 2/3 innings last year, just 23 hits and 22 strikeouts, a 3.77 ERA. He has started before, but Brubaker likely to be in long relief to start the season. So, when you look at it, again, this is a team that's trying to redevelop themselves. They've got some nice pieces here and there. I do like their starting rotation. But, they're going to have to improve from a prospect standpoint, and we'll get into that right now. So a team like this has to build, right? And they have to build through their farm system. They do have some nice pieces. You have Rafael Devers signed to a long-term contract. We talked a little bit about Bryce Eldridge. We'll get into him in a little more detail. But it does come down to building your farm system. And I think the Giants are committed to this. When you look at the history of their farm system, they were ranked 14th and 21, 17th and 22, 18th and 23, 22nd and 24, 24 and 25. Not a good direction, right? 14, 17, 18, 22, 24. Well, they moved back to 14th according to Baseball America. It's probably in the best shape it's been, the farm system, for a long time. Now, they are likely to graduate a couple of folks like a Bryce Eldridge, but they still have some other talent. So I want to get into it a little bit. Let's talk first about Eldridge. He is ranked as the 18th overall prospect in baseball. He's a first baseman, 6'7", 219 pounds. He threw 96 miles per hour when he was a two-way player in high school. And, there was thought that he might be a pitcher, but then he started absolutely destroying baseballs, and his path to the big leagues moved into a, batting profile. He hit 8 home runs for the 18 and under national team for USA Baseball. The Giants drafted him in the first round in 2023. He signed for almost $4 million. In his first full season, Eldridge was absolutely electric. He moved from low A to triple A, hit 23 home runs. In 2025, he had a left wrist injury, which delayed the start of the season, but then came back and hit 25 home runs between double and triple A. He made his big league debut in September and hit a 3-run double off Tyler Glasnow. That was his first big league hit. He did have surgery in October to remove a bone spur from his left wrist, but he is all go in spring training. His 90th percentile exit velocity is 107.7 miles an hour, which was the highest in the Giants minor league system for players with 300 or more plate appearances. He's got power to all fields, absolute power to all fields, and can hit home runs off of a variety of pitches. His strikeout to walk ratio is about 3-1 in the minor leagues, and struck out 13 times in 37 plate appearances in the bigs. So he is going to want to cut down on that. He played the entire season as a 20-year-old. So, he's still pretty young. The feeling is that he's, being 20 last year, he's got time to fill in gaps. And why not do it at the major league level if you're a team that's likely not to contend? He's got explosive bat speed, relatively short swing, and, he might never be better than a kind of a fringy first baseman, but he does have an above average arm. So, could he play somewhere in the outfield? It's unknown, but he is a below average runner, which might limit that outfield defense. He could just be a designated hitter. He could win the first base job out of camp, but then what do you do with Rafael Devers? It's more likely, like I said, that he would DH if he made this opening day team. Again, even if he doesn't make the team, there's plenty of time for seasoning. He's 20 years old, and he's certainly not guaranteed a spot in the opening day roster. So that is Eldridge. Let's look at now Josar Gonzalez, and I'm not sure I'm saying that right. It might be Josuar Gonzalez. He's a shortstop, only 18 years old, but he's the 30th best prospect in Major League Baseball. He's one of the most talented players of the 2025 international class, international signing class, and the Giants signed him for just about $3 million. So, exciting player. He's got offensive and defensive skills. His defense grades out a 70, and he's, again, only 18 years old. He's got great range, strong instincts, fluid action, an arm that easily grades as a plus. It's graded as a 60 right now. He's got this great sense of the strike zone and probably has more power than would be expected of an 18-year-old. He's a switch hitter. He's likely to see full-time action in 2026 in the minor leagues, probably will reach low A ball at some point, maybe starting in the complex league. He will be a lockdown at shortstop in the future and probably projects to hit near the top side of the lineup. So again, young guy, but really electric and one of the future pieces of this Giants team. Bo Davidson is another one. He is the 87th overall prospect in Major League Baseball. He's the 3rd overall prospect for the Giants. 23 years old, 6'2", 205 pounds. Again, outfielder. He kind of flew under the radar of scouts, but he played 2 years at North Carolina Junior College. And when he was signed by the Giants, he had this huge turn at high A ball in 2025. He's a physical player with gifts on both sides of the ball. He's produced 18 home runs in the minors. He's got improved pitch recognition at high A ball. Strikeout rate jumped just 2% between high A ball and double A ball. He's probably an average hitter with above average bat speed and some plus power in there. There's a chance he could stick in center field because he's got some speed, but he does have an above average arm, which could play better in right field or maybe even left field. But if he goes to the corners, he's probably going to be an above average defensive player. He's likely to play in Double A to start the season, should reach Triple A by the end of the year. Again, 23 years old. There's a chance you could see him in San Francisco at some point this year. His hit tool grades out at a 45, but his power is a 60. Running ability is 60, but fielding a 55, and his arm is a 55. The last player I want to talk about is another 18-year-old, and that is shortstop Johnny Level. Johnny grades out as a, doesn't grade out. He's a 5'10", 160-pound shortstop. He was signed for just about $1 million as a centerpiece of the Giants' 2024 international class. One of the best prospects in the Dominican Summer League during his debut season, and then ratcheted up his game a couple notches in 25. He was ranked the #1 prospect in the Arizona Complex League. He had 9 home runs and 108 total bases, which each ranked second in the Complex League. He finished with 31 games at Low A San Jose. He's a hitting machine. He's well-rounded offensively, more power than would be expected from a 5'10" player. He gets the ball in the air often enough to get, extra base hits and home runs. He's got soft hands and a plus arm to stick at shortstop. If he does stick at shortstop, he'll be an average defender, but he could move to second base and be an above average defender. We'll see where things go with him. He and Josué Gonzalez could be key pieces of this team of the future. It's a young and talented group, and along with Bo Davidson, this could be the future makeup of the next great Giants team. Add to that their international signing, which was huge. The Giants in January signed the #1 overall player out of this international class, Luis Hernandez. He signed for $5 million. Another shortstop. A lot of teams, they look for these athletic shortstop players and know that they can move them around a little bit. Hernandez is out of Venezuela, 17 years old, stands 5'10", 172 pounds. He's a right-handed hitter. Again, #1 player in this international signing class. So you have to like that if you're the Giants. So again, you've got this team who's, I'll say, a pretty average team, 81-81, probably somewhere where they'll finish this year. You've got a growing farm system. Could you build upon that? Are there assets you could trade in the offseason? There are, and I think one of them is Robbie Ray. He signed for $25 million this year, and then he's a free agent in 27. He could return some really nice minor league pieces. I think he is one of the big assets that are available right now. So keep an eye on that if the Giants fall out of contention. Luis Arraez also is only signed for this year, $12 million. The problem with Arraez is, again, he's just got that hitting tool. Doesn't get on base a ton, doesn't hit for power, doesn't steal a lot of bases. Is he the type of player that's going to put a team over the top? I don't know, but him being on a 1-year contract makes me believe that he could be an asset that's tradable. The other one is Tyler Mahle. So dominant early on in 25 before his injury. He signed for $10 million in 26. If he comes out and pitches really well and they fall out of contention, he's another really good tradable asset for this Giants team. So that is the San Francisco Giants. So where do they fare? I pretty much see them squarely as a 4th-tier team out of the playoff race. Somewhere in the middle of that next to last 4th tier, probably. But again, they're treading water. They're trying to remain competitive while building their minor league system. And I have a lot of confidence in the leadership of this front office. So we'll see where that lands them. Okay, so that's it for the Chicago White Sox and San Francisco Giants. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about both of these teams. If you like this podcast, I would ask you to subscribe, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, whatever streaming platform you're using. Please hit subscribe. I would really appreciate that. The more subscriptions I get, the more it tells me you like the podcast, the more people that end up following, the more listeners I get, which is really appreciated. If you like this specific podcast, give it a thumbs up, like it. I would really appreciate that. I would ask you to follow me on social media. Follow me on X. Follow me on Instagram at TellusEllisHQ. And if you want to join the show, have questions, want to debate me, whatever it is, just send me an email, jamie@tellusellis.com. We'll have 2 more teams coming at you shortly. And I appreciate you listening and or viewing, and I will see you soon.